Hey everyone, this is David Wilson, Enterprise Customer Success Manager at Jotform. Today, I'm here to walk you through Jotform's full suite of no-code solutions with an emphasis on features available through Jotform Enterprise. This is our multi-user plan designed to help increase productivity across your organization to transform your business. Enterprise features include admin and user roles for tailored access, white labeling, an admin console for user and data management, a dedicated server and support team, plus additional security options like SSO integration. Let's get started. On Jotform Enterprise, everything is branded to your organization, including things like the login page, and you can even use your own custom domain if you want to replace our .jotform.com domain. And that domain extends from everything from the environment to form URLs to embed codes. Everywhere we would normally use our Jotform domain would be replaced with your domain. And that really does go a long way to give people that recognition that it's an extension of your services rather than being something Jotform related. And if you are capturing any sort of sensitive information, it does put people at ease that they're not being phished, that they know they're filling out your form. When you log into an account, by default, that account will only have access to its own forms and its own data. So all of the forms and all of the submission data available from this All Forms section has been created and is owned by this particular account. We do have a sharing feature available from the account settings that allows for sharing forms and or data between accounts. So it gives you that sort of granular level of control over who gets access to what. So say I wanted to give Bob access to the submission data for these couple forms, the ability to edit these couple forms, and then anything that came in or out of this folder. Once I hit share at the bottom here, in Bob's account, this shared with me section would come up with whatever forms were shared, with whatever permission they were shared. So, for example, this form was shared with only access to the data, so I only have the data options available. This form was shared with only access to edit the form itself, so none of the data options are available. And these forms were shared with full access, so I have all the available features as if I was the form owner. Creating forms is super easy. We have thousands of templates if you want to see what someone else has created and repurpose that for your use case. You can, of course, copy forms in between accounts, create new copies of your own forms and repurpose those for new use cases. And we even have a really nice import tool that allows for importing PDF files and converting them to web forms. Basically, you select your file, and then the conversion tool does its best to convert that uploaded file into a web form. Now, this does a great job of recognizing the content of native PDF files, that is, files that were created as a PDF rather than converted from like a Word doc or scanned from a piece of paper. But at a basic level, this saves some time creating a new form. There will need to likely be some modifications needed, like some text that needs to be changed or something of that nature, but definitely save some time creating forms. But as an additional bonus, you can also map those web form fields back into that PDF file as an output. So in addition to saving some time, if you absolutely have to have a very specific PDF layout as the output, you can not only do all the nice online form stuff like using conditional logic, sending emails, all those things that you can't normally do within a PDF file, but then also produce that PDF with all the data submitted through the form as one of the outputs. So this kind of gives that best of both worlds scenarios, especially around tax time where everyone has to have their very specific PDF for the output. This allows for the best of both worlds. Starting from scratch, also super easy. We have a couple different standard layouts, the classic layout being what most people are used to. All fields in a single page are broken up by page breaks or sections. This is fully mobile responsive, so everything will get condensed down horizontally, restacked vertically. Super nice in terms of mobile usage, but we also have this card form layout that presents each individual question in its own page or card with little back and next buttons at the bottom. And you can swipe from field to field or use the buttons or the navigation bar to go to specific fields in the form. But with everything presented in its own card or page, everything is just blown up much bigger in size, especially on mobile. So when you would normally have a field that would get squished down, everything is still much more accessible on mobile. And we do have additional accessibility options for the card form layout in terms of screen readers and actual accessibility options as well. Stick to the classic layout for now. Adding fields to a form, just a simple click or a drag and drop to place the field somewhere specific. And this basic form elements list is going to have the most commonly used fields. Everything from like single choice, multiple choice, even signature panels and file upload fields if you need to allow them to upload files along with their submission. And all of these basic elements are going to have various field-specific sub-options as well. File upload field, for example, you can choose which file extensions you want to allow to upload. So if you only wanted to allow for uploading a PDF and a doc file, you can limit the users who are filling out the form to only uploading those files and reject anything else and actually give a message saying only PDF or whatever allowed file extensions you have, only those would be allowed. But there's also things like the short text field has various validations for different input types. Say if you wanted to ensure that they're inputting a URL or an email address, even things like character limits and the ability to force a very specific formatting. Say you needed to capture someone's social security number and you know that the format is number, dash number, and so on. You have the option to even force that specific of formatting for some of the fields. You can also capture payments through forms. We have a bunch of different PCI compliant payment processors that we integrate with, everything from PayPal to Stripe, Square. And essentially what these fields allow for doing, our basic example is selling t-shirts, but they essentially allow for creating various different products with sub-options. In our t-shirt example, you can do things like having special pricing per size or anything like that, or special pricing per color. Tons of different additional options in and above just sort of the basic product. You can have them enter their own values, pick from different values, lots of different ways to essentially produce a total. And then whatever total is produced is then processed on the card entered in the form through the connected payment processor with the funds being sent to the connected account. We don't take any additional fees above what the payment processor takes. The payment processor still takes their normal percentage, whatever that is, but no additional fees from the Jotform end when collecting payments. Widgets are essentially just advanced form fields. So anytime you come across a use case for a field that can't be accommodated by one of our basic elements, check our widgets. At this point, we usually have something for just about every field use case. Even things like the ability to add a YouTube video to the body of the form, SoundCloud files, a repeating set of fields that allows the person filling out the form to add more sets is needed. But we have hundreds of these. So if you ever come across a use case and you say, hey, I wish I had a field that did this, check our widgets. Usually at this point, we have something for it. Styling forms, also really easy. We have several different levels of styling available, everything from a one-click color scheme adjustment to individualized changes from everything from background color, page color, font type, font size, even the ability to modify things down to the CSS level if you want to take it that far, And we even have this really nice advanced editor that will write a lot of the code for you. So say I wanted to make this specific sublabel green. You can actually take it that far if you want to. We also have a full-on theme gallery. So if you want to use what someone else has created and then apply that styling to your form. Similarly, if you have a form styled exactly the way you want, you can also create a theme from your own styling and then use that for other forms. So save you some time. If you get a form styled exactly the way you want on brand, you can just save that as a theme and then have everyone else use that so everyone else has consistent branding even in their forms. Form settings are more overall form-based settings rather than field by field. And this is everything from save and continue if you have a longer form to unique field and unique submission checks, even the ability to make the form multilingual. So say you wanted to have the form be in both English and then Spanish as well. Once I add my additional language, there'll be an option to apply my own translated values if needed, or if something doesn't have an out-of-the-box translation or a sufficient translated value, you can always update these. But once you have your additional language set, super nice because you don't have to have multiple forms for different languages. The person filling out the form can just select from the available languages and fill it out in their preferred language. When the form is submitted, various different emails can be sent out. By default, the emails contain form field labels on the left with the field IDs on the right, and these IDs get swapped out for whatever is entered in that field. So this would be the email field data, phone number, and so on. But these are fully customizable, so if you wanted to just say you have a new submission from, and you can even use form fields as a part of the data. Normally you'd use a name field for this type of text, but you can say you have a new submission from whatever data, or include whatever data you want or exclude anything that you don't. But you can add images, links, even modify this down to the HTML source code level if you want to take it that far. Changing where these get sent. Just a simple update of the address. So say I wanted to send this to Bob and then Mary. It's as simple as it is to change the routing. And there's even options to, if you have a file upload field in the form, attach the files that were uploaded to that email. We even have the ability to attach a customized PDF output of the submission data if you want. And these customized PDFs are slightly different from the PDFs I was showing at the beginning. These are what I refer to as our Jotform styled PDFs. So this is a more dynamic document. Hidden fields can be omitted. You can change the space that something occupies, font type, font styling, tons of different options to essentially produce a layout that will then accept the submission data to fill out whatever IDs are used without or within that document. And you can even create multiples of these if you want to as well. So say if you wanted to have one layout that gets sent to marketing, one layout that gets sent to hiring and onboarding, and then one layout that gets sent to the person filling out the form. Lots of different options to create different layouts, and then you can choose which layout you want to attach to those emails. We have conditional logic in forms, and this is everything from the ability to show and hide form fields conditionally, updating and calculating different values. So say you had different tax rates depending on the location they select, and you wanted to perform one calculation when they select one location and a different calculation when they select another. If you do have fields that are set to required or that are optional, and you want to require or unrequire them conditionally, you can do that as well. If you do make the form multiple pages by simply adding a page break wherever you want to separate the form out into another page. You can also manage the content based on pages. So instead of hiding field by field, you can hide or skip page by page. Those emails that I was showing just a bit ago can also be routed conditionally. So if instead of sending to the same address or an address entered in the form every time the form is submitted, you wanted to route those emails conditionally. Say when they select location 1, you want to send it to Bob. When they select location 2, you want to send it to Mary. You can do that sort of routing as well. A thank you message gets shown when the form is submitted. Similar to the email, fully customizable in terms of content, so you can add whatever text, images. We even have buttons to allow for things like filling out the form again or downloading one of those customized PDFs. But you can also present those thank you messages conditionally. So if you wanted to have some qualification in the form, and if they select yes, you show them one thank you message saying they qualified. If they select no, you want to show them another message saying, unfortunately, you didn't qualify. You can do that sort of conditional presentation of the thank you message as well. We do have integrations for a ton of different third-party apps, everything from like Google Docs spreadsheets, Google Drive, Dropbox, Salesforce. Lots of different ways to send the form data off to third-party platforms on submit of the form. So every time the form is submitted, whatever integrations you have connected would also receive the data in whichever format you have or that integration accepts. So like Drive and Dropbox would get a PDF copy, Salesforce would get text-based data, but data specific to that integrated platform. Approval flows are a newer tool that we have, and these are super nice for everything like our basic example from a time off request. So this would be form gets submitted, an email gets sent to a specific address or an address entered in the form containing the submitted data as well as any available actions from that specific part of the flow. In this case, if the person accepts or selects approve, an email would be sent to the person filling out the form saying their request was approved. If they selected deny, an email would be sent to the person filling out the form saying their request was denied, and then the flow would end. But this can accommodate everything from these basic approvals to even multiple different approvers that have to approve and sign, the ability to merge various different approvals into a single approval. So say both of these people needed to approve or only one of them needed to approve before progressing. And we even have everything from the ability to add comments, various different backups if someone doesn't provide their action in a timely manner. Say you wanted to have the action sent for someone else to review after a certain period of time, expire the task with a specific outcome, send reminder emails to pester them to let them know that they have awaiting action, but lots of different follow-ups and backups, but tons of different ways to essentially produce a flowchart of your approval process. And depending on the action selected along that process, the flow progresses through that branch. When the form is complete, you don't have to publish it in order for it to be available, but this Publish tab has a bunch of different sort of form access options. Everything from a simple copy and paste URL to access the form to embed codes if you want to embed the form to a page or to your own web page. Even privacy options, so if you wanted to have the form only available to people that you invite to fill it out, only to people that have a verifiable email address on a specific domain, but additional options for sort of accessing the form. You can also send out pre-filled links and things of that nature. But again, you don't have to publish the form. Everything is automatically saved. This Publish tab just has those sort of form access options. When the form is submitted, all those emails that you have set up get sent out. Whatever integrations you have connected receive the data. But the data is also stored in the Jotform account associated with that form. And we have a few different sort of views of the data, the most useful of which, at least in my opinion, would be this submissions, or as we call it, our tables view. And this presents the data in a somewhat fully functional spreadsheet format, each individual submission being a new row, with each column being a separate separate field in the form. And if you're the form owner or have shared access to the data, you can come in here and do things like making modifications to the data, adding additional columns for notes or additional data that isn't necessarily being captured in the form. Even things like advanced mathematical formulas and lookups of data, action buttons to trigger submit actions after the fact. So if you wanted to send an additional follow-up email, trigger an integration to send over updated data, all those sorts of additional options are available within our table as sort of a replacement to the need to send the data off to something like an external spreadsheet to manage. There's even everything from the ability to create additional reports of the data. We have a calendar report that will show all of the submission data mapped to whatever date or appointment that they selected in the form. Even a more visual representation of the data with tables and charts that you can use to compare how many times someone selected one option versus another option. But lots of additional availability to manage that data after it is received. And one last sort of very important feature of Enterprise is the ability to manage everything as a whole on the server from an admin console. So compared to our single user plans where only that user should have access to those forms and data, if they change their password or leave the organization, that account is gone. On Enterprise, you have full control over all the user accounts on the server. Say someone left the organization and you wanted to lock their account to prevent them from downloading data or doing something silly like deleting forms or data, which even if they did, we can restore it from our backups. Still kind of annoying to deal with, but you can lock them out until you figure out what you want to do with their forms and data. Reappropriate accounts for new users, add new users if you need to. If someone locks themselves out of their account due to too many failed login attempts, you can unlock it for them. But lots of ability to control not only all the user accounts on the server, but also all the forms and data on the server. So if someone goes on vacation and you really need to get their data and you don't want to bother them, any of your admin users can come into this admin console and get their data, move the form to another account, but lots of different ways that you can manage all the forms and data without necessarily needing to be the owner of that content. You can do lookups for all of the data on the entire server with all those right to be forgotten things that have come up from CCPA and GDPR. It's really nice to be able to check all the forms from all accounts just to see if someone did submit something, and if they did, you can remove it for them. Activity logs to see everything from logins to form creations. If someone deletes a bunch of data and you want to find out who did it, you can see all of those actions from this admin console as well. Even the ability to update the server logo, change the fave icon in the browser tab up here. If you are using single sign-on, you can enable and set that up from here. And you can even block off everyone that doesn't have a common IP address used by your organization if you really, really want to ensure that only your users can access not only the environment, but also the forms and data, period. So lots of different restrictions and available options for managing everything on the server as a whole rather than on an account-by-account basis. All right, that concludes our demo. I hope this was helpful. To learn more about Jotform Enterprise or to contact a member of our sales team, visit jotform.com/enterprise. And remember, with your enterprise account, you can always contact your dedicated enterprise support team directly with any questions. Thanks for watching.